Hi.
Clearly JD's not here right this second, so I'm gonna do my best to introduce the show. Sweet. So here we go. What's up to our sidekicks and henchfolk out there in the Geek Nation? You're currently tuning into the CultPop podcast live stream, aka spoiler alert, episode 750. I think the counting is correct. Let's just say it is. This is our 750th episode.
Wow.
None of us on the screen have been here for all of them.
Yeah. Or even most of them.
Where we review this past week's comics as well as talk about fun pop culture topics for your listening and viewing pleasure, because you can see our faces if you're joining us live. I am your host, but not Johnny Destructo, not the owner of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located on 4327 Main Street, Philadelphia, PA. A pretty cool shop which caters to nerdy and nerd-adjacent individuals of all shapes and sizes, sans poopy jerks who go on and on about jerky, poopy things that collectively make most people cringe. Sort your life out, stinky heads, then come to the shop. This is where I write anything in the script and JD reads it. He's not here, so I'm saving it for next week. If anybody wants to know what drivel I've prepared for him, we'll see you next Monday.
No questions
today.
No.
Oh, hang on.
The questions are...
Yeah. Oh, we got the questions. Okay, cool.
With me this evening are people which I am very fond of, but if JD were to read this, he's only mildly fond of you guys. That's the truth.
What a jerk.
I know. First up is Brian Lieb.
Hey.
Brian, say hello.
Hello.
The question you were waiting for.
Ooh.
What is a classic comic book that you've never read and have actual little interest in reading?
A classic comic book that I've never read and have little interest in reading, the Claremont run of X-Men.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm with you a little bit, but go ahead.
So I'll tell you why it started off that way. Like back when it was coming out, I was not interested, right? And that might have had a little bit to do with, especially back then, I was all about like the original versions of teams, right? Like I want the original X-Men, which looking at it is like, why would it be like that? And it's so much more interesting with so many more characters, But, that's what I was interested in. And also, then I read some Claremont later. And I'm well aware that sometimes people come back to their great things and they're not that great. And that's not necessarily a reflection on what it was originally. But I was not interested in that stuff. And I'm like, maybe there was another reason that, back then that I wasn't into it. But, yeah. So
I don't inherently disagree with you. I've gone back and read some of it, and it's like it's all plot, but just not a style of writing I enjoy reading. Like, I almost would rather just like read a synopsis of it.
Yeah, the synopses are cool. Like Phoenix Saga sounds cool. Like all that stuff sounds cool, but yeah.
Yeah, see, but here's the thing about Claremont, at least the classic Claremont that I love, which was the hallmark of Claremont, which was Claremont and Dave Cockrum and John Byrne. And while Claremont definitely can fill the page with words and plots and like crazy, what made that classic run what it was the aesthetics that Dave Cockrum and John Byrne put to all of that word. And to be fair, to give props where props are due, especially with Byrne, his inking by Terry Austin and the lettering by Tom Ors, because I'll never get his full name. But like that,
that's ready to go down the credits, like publishers, colorists,
editors, but no,
group editors.
This was a great intro that they had.
But the printing press.
Shut up, guys. Stopping right there. No, seriously, stopping right there at those guys. Yeah. The aesthetics that they brought to the X-Men comic books at that time were not being seen anywhere else in comics, which is why X-Men exploded and became the phenomena that it was. And the closest thing that you had to that didn't happen until Wolfman and Perez on Teen Titans. Right? So I hear you on like being leery of it, and by now so much of classic Claremont and Byrne has been repopulated into other different media any fucking way. But I'm just saying that was good shit. After a while, yes, it did get a little left.
Well, I mean, this is a conversation based off of, or this conversation is not unlike like certain movies, right? You can recognize how important something is, but that doesn't mean you like it.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
True.
I respect this, but I don't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that way about the classic X-Men runs.
Yeah,
No, I love Cockrum and Byrne on other things, and I guess I was thinking also of the Jim Lee. But was that Claremont?
Yeah, it was.
That was
yeah,
Claremont.
yeah.
Claremont stayed on there way too long.
Yeah. And I don't know. I was like not. I think I felt Jim Lee was really cool back then, but it represented this, I don't know, image kind of style, and I was all about the the DC and Marvel stuff. Although later, I mean, Jim Lee has done some of my favorite like definitive Batman or like various other cool things in the years since. Oh, I liked Hush. When I was reading Hush, I was like, "Ooh, Batman."
Before we litigate that, also with us tonight is Len the Metro. Len, I did have written down the same question for you, except it's slightly different as to when you say or when you admit you haven't read something and it makes people gasp. What is that?
Oh,
like when you're like, no, I've never read Sandman. What? Like that shit.
See, I don't talk to enough people that really care about Sandman, so that doesn't.
Well, no, not that one.
So
that's
they just say
an example.
They just say, "Sure, Len, me neither."
No gasping.
That's that's the one I get the most. I think. Like, no, I've never read Sandman. What?
That's the right answer, Len. You can join the club. We haven't read Sandman either.
No Sandman Club. That's cool.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like that. They like. I can't believe that I haven't read.
There's got to be a Batman run that people revere that you're like, nah, meh.
No, because honestly, most of the people that I know that love Batman, they just love Batman. They don't necessarily have a run of Batman that they cape for. So
like that was good.
No, but here's
that
the
you
thing.
cape for. No, that was good.
Yeah, that was good. No, but it's not a comic book, but people can't believe that I, for the most part, don't like Batman the movie from 1989.
Oh yeah, we've talked about this. That's right. Yeah.
And I like parts of it, but on the whole, I don't like it.
And having been in parts of those conversations with you before, valid. Yeah. All right. Also with us tonight is me. Whatevs.
Answer your own question, though.
Yeah. One or the other.
Honestly, it's a bunch of stuff that was an impulse buy on my shelf. One of them, which is probably Sandman. I do have it to read. It's cumbersome and huge, and I'm not inherently interested. I just felt the pressure to read it eventually.
But you've read the first half and gotten into Lucifer, and I feel like you've got an entry in that world. And
I fell in love with Lucifer. I think it's great. So I mean, it's really just a matter of I'm going to not read other things that I really want to first to power through this and fall in love with it like everyone tells me I should. Which again sounds like Stockholm Syndrome. But whatever.
I guess if you would legitimately, like if the kidnappers were actually really great people. You
just die on that hill.
Yeah.
I mean, for real though, if the kidnappers are it's not damaging. They took you from your home, but they brought you to paradise. What
exactly.
Who cares about your family?
Sounds like a song lyric or something.
No, I can't really think of it. 100 Bullets. 100 Bullets is one that kind of comes up often, and I'm like, no, I haven't read it. Or I've tried reading it.
See, you know what? As an owner of 100 Bullets, I don't think you would like 100 Bullets.
I have it ready to try. I have it ready. I just haven't read it yet. I read the first 25 issues, and I thought it was cool, and then it just got a little convoluted, and I lost the thread. And I'm like, this is 100 issues of this? No, I'm okay.
Oh, how about Astro City? That's one that I know that we were.
I haven't started.
You haven't read that? Yeah.
I have Len's first trade. I will. You know what? I will read that this month.
No, you won't. But it's fine. Yeah, I will. Yeah, I will. When I'm telling the truth, I get higher.
Before we get into the comics, we do have a letter.
We have litter.
We've got lots and lots of
letters. It's a lot of letters in one letter. Either way, and guess who it's from, guys?
Is it?
Wait a minute.
Can you charades it out? Give it. Give me the sign for the name that this is.
Their name rhymes with
And rhymes aren't allowed in trades.
Nazi.
Paint.
Saint Saucy?
That's the one.
Christopher Saint Saucy Goodnight?
Sweet dreams.
All
Chrissy
right.
Sweet dreams.
All
Anyway,
right, well, this has been spoiler alert.
yeah. Have a good night, everybody. The email is titled "Worst Injury." Hey, y'all. I've been experiencing chronic pain for the last week or so. It was in my neck and arm and between my shoulder blades last week, to the point where I couldn't even look straight. I can look straight right now, but I still can't look up without bending back, and the pain between my shoulder blades and in my right arm come and go. So what's the worst pain you've had and that wasn't from testicular cancer, to JD? You are all about my age, 40 or older. Noel is the youngest, I think. That's not true. But thank you.
That's so not true.
Sincerely, Christopher St. Saucy, good night. P.S. Enterprise still sucks, by the way. I've made it to season 3. I like seeing women naked as much as the next straight guy, but I'm tired of finding reasons for T-Pole to take her shirt off.
To Paul
To take her shirt off. It's not what I come to Star Trek for.
Yeah.
Fair.
That makes sense.
That's fair.
Season 3 is good, though. I don't know how far you've gotten into season 3, but I think you'll enjoy it a lot more than you did seasons 1 or 2, or that you will season 4.
I have to put a qualifier on that.
Okay.
Season 3 is better than season 1 or 2.
Okay.
All right.
So you're saying it progressively gets better?
No.
For the first 3
3
seasons,
is
yes.
1, but 4 is a downward spiral.
4
Yeah.
is 4.
I think I still like 4 better than 1 and 2. But
Okay,
but 4 does not stick the landing at all.
No, it does not. Yeah.
So
they spend too much time referencing other shows.
In order of seasons: shit sandwich, hamburger, spoiled hamburger.
I can't say that it's shit. I mean, it is Star Trek still, and it has a lot of those qualities.
Garbage.
Nah.
Rancid garbage. Or rancid garbage.
No.
A burger. Fuck it. I don't
It's
care.
still a hamburger.
Look, I can answer the first question. June 1st, I had my first kidney stone, and I was out for like a month. That was the worst pain I've ever experienced, and it was awesome. Everyone should try it at least once.
No, that's that's not going to happen. I can't think because I've not had like a major injury in my life, so
that's great.
I honestly I can't think of like a really super bad physical pain. Anything that I would mention would be emotional, and I don't want to talk about it.
Sure.
Not here, not tonight.
Yeah. I once. All right. So, was it the classic kind of pain? No, but extraordinarily uncomfortable. I had something called pericarditis, which may have been caused by a virus, but there's a sac around your heart, evidently, that is supposed to have like a little bit of fluid in it. It protects the heart from like hitting other things. So pericarditis, the fluid swelled, right? I had like way too much fluid, and I experienced it as this pain in my neck, right? And so I went to the ER, the like urgent care place,
Urgent care.
Yeah, and the guy's like, all right, well, we're going to send you to the ER. And I'm like, but I got this pain in my neck. And he's like, well, you're getting some weird readings on your EKG. The EMT came in and he read it, and he was like, oh, fuck. Which is not the kind of thing that an EMT is like, welcome to be heard said. And
he was really chill when he told me I had 5 minutes to live. At least his demeanor was nice. Yeah.
You don't want to freak somebody out if it's only 5 minutes. You know what I mean? But so he's like, all right, I thought you were having a real slow heart attack, but that's not what's happening. But we're going to take you to the ER. And later that day, I was close to something called tamponade, which is the collapse of your heart from too much fluid, right? And I was like in the ER with like 4 nurses, a doctor on like a crazy amount of morphine that I didn't even feel. It just like allowed me to continue existing in a conscious state, you know? And here's the part that was really the main physical thing. I couldn't lay down, right? Because whenever I laid down, it felt like I couldn't breathe at all. So I had to sit up. So I had to sleep sitting up for a very long time.
Shit.
Well, like, I mean, maybe like a month or under, but that's a long time.
That's a long time. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. And so is this insane pain? Yeah.
Genetic or something acute caused it?
So it could have been a cold that went into my heart instead of my lungs. It could have been from like a scratch of like a mouse or something, you know, or something else. They don't think. So I saw a cardiologist for a while after that, who always remembered me because he didn't see a lot of 29-year-old people.
I was gonna say,
like I would see him at the movie theater where I used to work, and he was like, "Yeah." And he said, "I used to have to take antibiotics when I went to the dentist because like the mouth is a very quick route to the heart. Apparently, I don't have to do that anymore." And he said, "You know, there's no reason to worry about it in the future, but yeah, man, what an experience! Like this incredible pain in my neck, and and like breathing would like, and just not being able to lay down. It was something else."
Well, I'm glad you didn't die.
Thank you. Yeah, there was a moment where I wasn't sure, which was the first moment of that kind that I had ever experienced. You know, where I was like, you go around in your head like, I'll continue living for the next second. You know,
I'm gonna segue off this, and you know what? We're also glad doesn't die. Nostalgia. First comic we're talking about tonight is Superman 78 #1, written by DC Comics, written by Robert Venditti, with art by Wilfredo Torres. Fly into director Richard Donner's Superman once more in Superman 78, which tells a brand new adventure in the world of the beloved film. A bright, shining day in Metropolis is interrupted by a mysterious drone that crash lands in the city and starts wreaking havoc. This looks like a job for Superman. But where did the metallic menace come from? What is its purpose? And who is Brainiac? So, I was not excited about this book.
I know you weren't at all.
I was even doubly not excited about this book, as if that's a thing. Like even more so not excited about this book after reading Batman 89 #1, because I also fell up along the lines of I didn't enjoy it. It was just kind of like fine. Like it was just a lot of meh. So I read this not with animosity, but with a lot of indifference, just a lot of indifference. And I thought it was fucking delightful.
Cool.
I really liked this issue. I have not enjoyed Robert Venditti in a very, very long time. I didn't like Hawkman. I didn't like his Justice League run. I didn't like his Green Lantern run. He's one of those writers I keep sampling because I want to, and everyone talks about how great they are, and I just never clicks for me.
Right.
Wilfredo Torres, he's fine, serviceable, but man, the combination of them and this property and the pacing of this book and a lot of like really great jokes, I loved it. I just really, really enjoyed this. I wanted to message you guys like 10 pages in, already better than Batman 89, but I was like, you know what? Let me finish the issue. That's how quickly it happened. But the one panel I mentioned in the thread, there's one panel in this book that made me just like tip my hat and be like, yeah, I like this a lot. Before I tell you, do you guys know what I'm referring to? Do you know which one panel just nailed it for me?
I thought it was the panel. There's a panel where Superman is flying to go get at Brainiac, but instead he's about to fly into Brainiac, shooting with his X-ray vision. It's the bottom panel of the page, and Christopher Reeve is kind of like turning a little bit. It's page. See, I'm looking at digital, so it's page 15. I don't know if that matches the physical or whatever.
No.
Yeah, I didn't.
No, that wasn't it. Brian, do you have a guess, or I'll just say it?
My feeling was, I don't have a specific guess, but it was in the early like Clark and Lois.
Nope.
back and forth.
No.
Nope. Oh, what do we
There
got?
was, I mean, I was enjoying it. The Clark and Lois stuff was adorable, and I was just enjoying it. And then when the melee kind of started, there is a one single panel beat of a hot dog vendor squirting mustard on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was
And
cool.
it was so well paced. It was so well placed.
Mhm.
The acting on the just these random characters' faces was fantastic, and it immediately reminded me of the movie where they actually did have reaction shots and gags that were within the reaction shots that they kind of filled the space around Superman in a big brawl. The later movies never did that, especially the more modern ones. Like, not only were people just murderable at all times, they were all faceless victims.
Yeah,
and I remember
or digital.
Or digital, but yeah, and I remember the older movies where you actually see people running, or they're just like reacting with each other, or a family, or a hot dog vendor who's like reacting kind of fun. Like, for some reason, it just immediately grounded me into this issue, and I fucking loved it. Just loved it.
Sweet.
What did you guys think, Len?
Yeah, you know what? You bringing that up, I did feel the same thing on that panel. I was like, oh, that's the movie. That's the movie. Like, this is Superman, like, part 3. You know what I mean? Superman 3. Like, this is what it should be, and which is what it's intended to feel like. And it feels all the more like that. You know, props to DC for taking one page, as they did in all of their books, but especially, you know, poignant in this book, to take one page at the top of the comic to pay tribute to the director of Superman from '78, Richard Donner, who had recently passed away. So that just made it just feel like more on the nose, right? So I did enjoy this comic book. Are there things that I could pick about it? Yeah, and I will do that later after B gives his talk. But on the whole, I thought this was a major success. Wilfredo Torres, I think that his art it's a little sketchy, but I don't mind that because he's trying to evoke a feeling. He definitely has the likeness of Christopher Reeves down. He's got the likeness of Jackie Cooper as Perry White down as well. I think he's being playing, not, you know, I think there's reasons why Margot Kidder or Lois Lane is not really in close up. I don't know if he's really necessarily trying to catch Margot Kidder, but he definitely has her essence. He's got the essence of all of the people that acted in the
voices are spot on too.
Right. They sound real. And that goes all the way to his Jimmy Olsen, who is definitely a Jimmy Olsen of the movie, not the comic books. So it works, and it even works with Brainiac, a character who we not only didn't see, we didn't even see referenced in the Superman movies. Yet this comic, you know, smartly plays a little retcon with that, so that Brainiac was always there, even there with Marlon Brando, dog. I was like, okay, I see what you're doing, man. So this was like a bucket of fun. Like, this is one of those comics where I'm like, man, why didn't they just put out the whole damn story? Like, why we gotta be like piecemeal this?
I'm not gonna read this in issues. I'm probably gonna wait for trade because I just enjoyed this and I probably want to own it. Whereas I don't feel the same way about Batman 89. Batman 89 felt like trying to capture your nostalgia. Superman 78 feels like a continuation of what you loved.
Yeah, like another one.
Yeah, like Batman 89 was Easter eggs and references and look at this. Like even that splash page of all the like Tim Burton characters from other movies. I'm like, that's cute, but okay. This just literally felt like a continuation, and it was just, I loved it.
Yeah, this felt like watching another one of the movies, which is just what I want from this kind of thing. You know, you want more of that story. And I thought the way, like, the conversation between Clark and Lois, as a running through, like, this is spot on. The movie Clark and movie Lois talking to each other, especially Lois, I think. Just the way that she is, like, you know, complimenting him, but this brusqueness and, like, paying attention to something else while she's talking to him. JD had mentioned, and I told him I would bring it up on the show and give him credit for it, was he thought, why does this one feel like the movie, but Batman 89 didn't? That this one, those little conversational nuances are present in the Superman movie, and like that's a lot of what Superman, the movie, is about. And they were able to recapture that here. Whereas in Batman, there's like the atmosphere of it was what he liked about it, and it wasn't captured in that comic. But also, I think the likenesses, like Len was saying, there are times where it's maybe not the most technically accurate face for Christopher Reeves, but he feels like Christopher Reeves. And it's great. You know?
This is. I think we had mentioned it with 89, like how to handle like likenesses and IPs and stuff. And my favorite reference is how Georges Janty did Buffy. They looked like the actors in some scenes, and other scenes they looked like approximations of the actors, but they were their own thing. Like it didn't look like constant rotoscoping or tracing, but it also was its own fluidity. And Wilfredo Torres does do that.
Yeah, he's got that like
in still shots or in like hero shots. That's Christopher Reeve, but just like in normal, it's just
both in Clark and Superman. You know, he does it well. I'm looking at page 16 of our copy, and there's just this Superman scene where it's just like the jaw. It looks like Christopher Reeve Superman, and like Len mentioned, I like this introduction of Brainiac. This is very interesting.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's an interesting take on the Brainiac thing too, where he doesn't want interference in a planet, and this whatever scout or whatever it is. So we also get to see two versions of Brainiac: the metallic, like android-looking Brainiac, and the green skin alien-looking Brainiac. But the metallic one seems to feel like the human race is not at the brink of destroying the planet, which is why it saved Krypton. So that's an interesting twist. That is like Superman is the issue, and that's it. Is how it's looking like it's going to go. Yeah.
I'm very interested on like really quickly. What are some of your nitpicks, Len? Like what didn't click?
Well, first of all, I want to say to B and conversely to JD, I think part of the reason why this works and Batman 89 doesn't necessarily work, and I don't 100% remember 89, except that it just gave me like a man feeling. But I think partly because of the likeness of Michael Keaton in that comic book is not as close to it as you would want. Also, because the Michael Keaton in there, as opposed to just slightly graying temples that Keaton had in 89, this one he's got the full Reed Richards on. And I think because of some of the character designs and if I remember some of the story beats, that Batman 89, even though it has the 89 on it, almost has the feel as if they were doing what if Michael Keaton's Batman did The Dark Knight, right? Like years later, older, little grizzled and everything like that. Whereas this comic book literally feels like maybe last week, 2 weeks at best, Lois Lane and Superman were at the Fortress of Solitude, and he was giving her the kiss that she will not remember. You know what I mean?
It feels. I think it's bigger. I think it's a bigger issue of tone between the two writers. So Sam Hamm did Batman 89 #1, and this is Robert Venditti. I think it's just kind of how they approached it. So Batman 89, the experience of it read like hitting beats in an outline. And this was 90% charisma with 2 or 3 plot points. Like it felt 89 felt like it was going through the chore of setting things up or just knocking things down, whereas this actually felt like a holistic experience. That's what kind of throws me off. It's just like I mean if the experience of reading it is the same as reading a Wikipedia description of the story, then I'm a little cold to it, whereas this was filled with nuance, and I just appreciated it a little bit more.
And
even though between the two, these are not my favorite. Yeah.
It felt like the beginning of that movie, of those movies too. It's like Superman's doing something that is not the main story, in the beginning of those movies, and that's what he was up to now. And then, I mean, he fights Brainiac, and that part will be the main story, presumably. But it was like a little preamble kind of fight, also, and it only happened in the second half of the issue.
They like a good scene construction drops you in mid sentence and leaves before welcome is overstayed.
Oh, and
that's
I didn't
what this
notice
book kind of did. It just dropped you in.
When we were reading it, I didn't notice. You can't see it on the screen now, but
Nope.
There's a reference to even the animated series, which I think appropriately very quick. Just the 3 circles with 2 lines connecting them when you see Brainiac on his ship. Yeah.
I want to quickly talk about another Superman book that came out this week, and we don't need to harp on it. But I read it, and I want to make one point. I don't know if you guys read it also, but we'll go through the motions. So it was Superman versus Lobo #1 by DC Comics, written by Tim Seeley and Sarah Beatty, with art by Mirka Andolfo. What happens when an indomitable force meets an irritating object? That's what readers find out when Superman runs into Lobo. Think of it like a Boy Scout joining a biker gang. What will be worse, the damage Lobo causes on his own or the chaos of trying to stop him? I smell a team up, fanboys. Newman is the most popular being in the universe, a god clogging all social channels. He does not like competition. This means Superman and Lobo must go. Further complicating things is Dr. Flick, a scientist determined to study the last sons of Krypton and Zarnia, respectively. What can she glean from the hero who lost everything as a baby and the bad, bad boy who made it all go away just for the heck of it? From writers Tim Seeley and Sarah Beatty, the team behind the indie hit Money Shot, and punchline artist Mirko Andolfo, comes a hilarious new superhero epic. So even the solicitation is super cutesy and wink winky.
Yeah. And incorrect in some part, like wildly incorrect in some parts.
It's a Black Label book. They can do what the hell they want, I guess.
No, I mean just the solicitation.
The tardigrade?
Yeah, the thing about like he's the most powerful in the universe and they've got to go. Like that was not the story at all.
But, I mean, it's probably the story in issue 2.
Maybe.
Which is also like getting it. So this was like 50 pages. Could have been 15.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of really great ideas that I appreciated. And most of them were firmly, or at least attempted to firmly be placed like in satire. The idea of, anti-savers, like the people that don't want to be saved. Like, I didn't ask you to save me, Superman. Leave me the fuck alone. Like that being something that trends on social media, I found very funny. A character like Lobo attacking Superman on social media, I thought was very funny. But it was all just so poorly paced, and all the jokes were so very on the nose. I feel like every single one of these beats would have benefited from a more nuanced storyteller. And the first person, like as soon as I finished reading this, I didn't overtly hate it, and I also didn't enjoy the experience, but because there's a couple of really cool things I liked in it. The first thing I thought though is, God, I wish this was written by somebody like Mark Russell, who knows how to juggle satire and deep understanding of cartoon characters and superhero comics. And I just don't think this has like 5 or 6 super good ideas, but the packaging is just overall it wasn't very enjoyable for me. I know, Len, I don't know if you finished it. Brian, did you get a chance to read this?
I did get a chance and took that chance. But it was down to the wire whether or not I was going to finish it. But I did end up finishing it. Yeah, I agree with all of that. Like the first page was cool and I was like, cool, here we go. And then the rest of it was not like that. And there were.
Here we go.
It was a really it was a really rough start. Like you could have easily ripped out the first 15 pages of this 50 and just started it with Lobo in a hotel room and lost literally nothing. And it was a very rough start.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, like what you were saying about the satire points, there's everything is like a allegory, right? And like I don't disagree with any of the stuff that they are saying, really, but I'm like, I've heard it, presented in different ways, just straight on in like a comment opinion articles or whatever. But yeah, it's done. It's a thing about social media and the way that lies spread and hatred spreads and that kind of thing. And then there's this character of the observer who maybe will pay off later, but doesn't do much. And it's all kind of it's written in. She especially is written in a very on the nose, cutesy kind of way. And then at the end, they get sent to the other planets.
Yeah, I start to lose. It could be on the nose and it could be satire, but I start to lose patience for it when literally the end of everyone's dialogue, it sounds like they're doing a wink, like at the end of everyone's dialogue. Like it starts to become exhausting. Oh,
and they use the like Jimmy Olsen turning into the giant turtle boy kind of thing, which is the kind of stuff that I love when they reference the crazy Silver Age stories in a different way. But that again feeds into the like there's not much original to doing that in this case. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh yeah, we threw in look, it's like classic Superman in this circumstance. Yeah.
Anything you want to add, Len? We don't have to spend a lot of time on this.
No. All right. Bored by this exercise.
Let's do it.
It's a Black Label book, and honestly, the Black Label books, save for one, have all been enjoyable so far. So it was a little disappointing.
Yeah.
Well, now there's two.
So the next book I was very excited about is Darkhawk #1 by Marvel Comics. So written by Kyle Higgins with art by Juanan Ramirez. Who is the all-new Darkhawk? Connor Young is a 17-year-old star basketball player with the world ahead of him until a surprising medical diagnosis changes everything. But what happens when a mysterious amulet finds him and gives him the powers beyond belief? What will he do with these new abilities? I did not read that solicitation before reading this, and I'm glad. I just like Kyle Higgins as a writer. He's currently writing one of my favorite books, Radiant Black. And I just went for it. Darkhawk, I have no real relationship to. Like, I've enjoyed what he's been doing, like what they've done with the character here and there. I think Avengers Arena was really fun, but that was like 10 years ago. And he showed up here and there in Guardians of the Galaxy, but it was kind of tangential.
He was big in one of the later Annihilation Max
Darkhawk
series.
Was?
Yeah. It was pretty cool. There were like other crystals.
Oh, okay, yeah. In the Abnett and Lanning era, like he was there a little bit. Chris was, So this story actually kind of started in that Darkhawk one shot a couple months ago. The Darkhawk that we know, I forget his name, Chris something, straight up dies. Chris Powell straight up dies or gets like killed or black holed or something, and the amulet just shoots off to Earth, and this just kind of starts here. Not necessary information to know, but it's kind of like a larger story being told. And I really, really enjoyed just spending time with these people until stuff happened. Stuff that you knew was going to happen, but I got to know Connor, his family, his situation, his friends, the stakes of his situation, like if X, Y, and Z happens, what he loses, like they spent a good amount of time setting up the stakes for this, like the very personal stakes for this one character before introducing anything superhero-y. And it just made me enjoy the last half of the book so much more. And it also, the little twist at the end, didn't see it coming.
Neither did I.
Didn't actually see it coming. So this was just like solid B+ comic booking. Really enjoyed it. What did you guys think? Brian.
So I am into Darkhawk. I always liked Darkhawk in the '90s, and I was like, all right, let's do some more Darkhawk. And once Darkhawk shows up, I'm like, all right, we got Darkhawk. That's cool. I was expecting it to be the original Darkhawk, but whatever, it's all right. Oh man, I did not. It was real tough for me to get through the first several pages. There's like 3 pages of a basketball game, and I'm like, what is happening? Why am I reading this?
Basketball game is happening.
Right. And I go out of my way not to read those things happen. So I'm not sure that I read every word on those pages, but I got a sense of it. And it's a very personal, like you said, a serious issue that they're addressing. The main character has multiple sclerosis, and I am fully supportive of books addressing that kind of thing, and they're interviewing somebody with that in the back of every issue, and I think that's great. That as a hook for a character is also interesting. For I wonder if it'll turn out in a way similar to Stealth. That you remember we read that the guy had dementia, I believe. And like you said, the thing at the end, the twist at the end, who it turns out is working with whom, that was cool. That was cool. And so there we go.
Yeah, well,
I didn't in the middle. Yeah,
you're very in the middle, and I'm on the other side because I did not like this book. I did not enjoy this at all. The writing is not bad. It's I knew about Darkhawk. I kind of remembered that there was somebody else's Darkhawk. So when this person was going to become Darkhawk, I said, "Oh, something happened to Darkhawk." I didn't really care, so I'm like, "All right, so what? I'm gonna read it because I didn't care about Darkhawk before." So so I'll read it, but like I couldn't get into this book. The art is not bad, but the artist and go ahead, give me his name.
Juanan Ramirez.
Juanan Ramirez is not bad, but he draws the lead character in like he looks different, like in a lot of different ways.
I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. Juanan.
It may be. It may be Juanan. Well, Mr. Ramirez. I think we're safe in that. And like I said, it's not bad art, but there is like a page looking digitally on page 11. On page 11, the lead character in one panel, he's jacked.
It's like a 26-year-old man in that panel,
right? But then in another panel, he looks like JD reaching into the refrigerator, and no props.
He looks like the reverse of Steve Rogers getting the super soldier serum from one panel to the next.
I did not notice continuity issues. You guys are probably right.
Yeah, I mean, and that happens all along. Plus, then this guy has a best friend, or I'm not sure if it's a best friend or a cousin or whatever. I don't know. I want to say they share some type of genetic characteristic because they look exactly the fuck alike, and I can't tell them apart when things happen. So when the big surprise happens at the end, I'm like, what, did he run across town? Like, no, oh no, it's okay. I understand what is happening here. I mean, like, I'm sorry. I just found myself very much not caring about anything that was happening here because art can take me out of a story. And this art just took me totally out of the story. And I'm sorry, I wasn't with it. Nice cover. There's a couple of nice splash pages. Like even when he becomes Darkhawk, like when he becomes dark, like I would have been fine for him to be like a little emancipated because when he becomes Darkhawk, oh, okay, cool. The costume's doing something for him, but the costume's not doing anything for him. I mean, like, come on, man, I didn't like this book. Sorry.
I agree to disagree.
So I would tell people if you're going to think about picking up Darkhawk, I would think about it, admire the cover, then put it down and go buy and then go buy Stealth because Stealth is better.
I mean, so far, stealth is better. Yes.
Well, this is one issue. Stealth in 2 issues in the first issue was better than this.
I think also Stealth you guys finished, and we read all of them but the last one. We should read it. We should find it and read it and do the final review for the story. Yeah.
You haven't read it?
No, I kind of lost track of it when we stopped reading it for the show.
You should be a better reader.
Try.
Follow what you love.
Try it all.
Follow. Anyway, let's talk about the next book, which is I think we could safely say style over substance for the most part, and that's Echo Lands #1, written by J.H. Williams III and W. Hayden Blackman, with art by J.H. Williams III. The story of Earth's last war starts with Hope's sticky fingers. In a bizarre future that has forgotten its history, a reckless thief, Hope Red Hood, holds the key to excavating its dark, strange past. If only she and her crew can escape a tyrannical wizard and his unstoppable daughter. But fate will send them all on a path leading to a war between worlds. Echo Lands is a landscape format, mythic fiction epic where anything is possible. A fast-paced genre mashup adventure that combines everything from horror movie vampires to classic mobsters and cyborg elves to Roman demigods and retro rocket ships. It's going to be a hell of a ride. That is not a lie of a solicitation, because this book feels like everything, including the kitchen sink, as well as the kitchen and the house and the building of the house, it's all in here. This book is just opulence personified.
I'm sure if we played Where's Waldo with this, we would find the kitchen sink and the kitchen and the house.
I did read it physical. So the book itself, is landscape format, and everything is double page spreads across. It was I think you guys read it digital, right?
Right.
It was a decent experience. There were some layouts that really, really worked. As soon as we read tons of comics. The compulsion is to speed read left to right, up and down, and just kind of roll with it. This didn't allow you to do that, physical at least, because you had a canvas that was 10 times or 3 to 4 times wider than you're normally used to with one page. Even with a double page spread, it still exacerbates it. And a lot of the layouts via dialogue goes left to right across both pages. So we're talking about, it's almost like being in the front row of an IMAX movie and reading subtitles. You're just following things, constantly moving your head back and forth. So I don't know if it was a very fun experience, but it definitely was an interesting one. I almost, halfway through the book, I almost wished that it was an oversized format too.
Yeah.
I think
because just like this back left to right, it wasn't enough. If it was like prestige or super prestige, like the Black Label books, that big, that'd make more sense, because some of the shit is so intricate. It's almost you don't even notice it. It's so intricate. And I don't know if that's a plus or I don't know if it's a positive or a negative. I
think it's
so loud. It's great. I don't know.
I think first of all, I think that it lands on being a negative. Not saying that the art or the writing is bad. The ideas are all there, and it's very, very interesting. You cannot knock the art.
Nope.
Just taken for artistic integrity alone, this book is gorgeous. Right? It is absolutely gorgeous. But if JD was here, he would be nodding in his head like crazy with me when I say sometimes J.H. Williams is his own worst enemy, because he not only packs so much into the page, it is so dense and intricately illustrated, but the panel layouts, he goes so far left with them that they sometimes pull you out and distract you from following the story. and you can't really follow the story beats, especially in a book like this where not only do you have this intricate art, but you also got the lettering by I think Todd Klein is trying to match the art. So you've got different fonts and caption boxes flowing all over the place. And you got to keep track of which box means who's talking and, you know, what this language is. And he's trying to put in the natural patois of this land. So everyone has their own type of speech and affect. So it's a lot to take in at once, let alone that's before you get to the basic plot and trying to understand what's happening there. And I think ultimately it lands on a negative, but primarily I think because of what Noel said, this is a book that cries to be bigger format, and probably, to be fair, I mean, this first issue is 31 pages. That's a lot of pages.
Oh, I mean,
yeah, but only like
it's
20
only like
story
20 pages
pages.
of story.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. This needs more room.
Yeah, I was gonna say because of the immersiveness of it, or at least the immersiveness that they're trying to sell, it does need more space to breathe. But I was gonna say, like, I normally kind of skip over back matter or just go back to it later. I actually read this back matter, and it was better than the story. It was a fake interview with the magistrate or the big bad guy. I forget his name. It was more revealing and interesting than the actual story. And then like a music playlist of everything J.H. Williams was listening to while he drew this, which was also more revealing than anything that actually happened in the story. So I mean, it's like in some ways too, it's like that whole thing where, like, you know, like, oh, you didn't like the movie, you should read the novelization because they really dive into the things that the movie doesn't have, and you'll like it more. Like, why do I got to read a fucking book to like a movie? It's like, why do I need the back matter to make sense of the story that you're trying to tell me? I don't know. I think I will revisit this when it's collected, and hopefully it'll be in a larger format. Because I'll take my time with this bitch, you know?
Yeah.
Brian, what'd you think?
So I think I agree with everything you guys were saying. I know, Len, you and I both read it digitally, and I think in one aspect that is better, in that there is no page break, right?
That's true.
Which is good, and things happen across the pages, and there's no physical bend or staple or anything like that. But in that aspect alone, it's the digital tablet that I think anybody else has is way too small, and there's like way too much black space at the top and the bottom, and it's just hard to read, you know? I don't like to like enlarge when I'm reading a comic, but I had to at some points here, you know?
I mean, almost every page you had to. There is no single page. There's like one single page in this whole book, and it's the first one. Everything else is a left to right full page spread.
Like, when they get to that circle at the end, I was like, phew, you know, that's just this one thing. Yeah.
Well, that, and there is one very almost gross out action beat that takes up 2
that's
pages.
Pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Which like that's the only part of the book that's in watercolor too.
Yeah. I know, right? Like, he took his time with that one.
Yeah. But
it's the first thing he drew.
He got his Bob Ross on. A happy accident.
Let's have a happy accident.
That's not what they think.
Well done. Yeah, it's all about perspective. But I would like to have known the part about a world that has forgotten its history and all of its stories are present. I would like to have known that before I started reading the story, or somewhere early in the story, because that's very interesting. And having heard it in this list, I'm like, oh yeah, that is in here, you know?
Right.
And I think the story really could have benefited from having that in the actual on the pages that are part of the story.
I feel like it's almost it's like the opposite effect of what they were trying to achieve. They've put so much detail into the art that the details of the story get completely lost, or vice versa. Like there's no true balance. Like this is This is almost exclusively, or at least 70%, just for the art, and the 30% story. Whereas I think the intention was for it to be half and half, or maybe further stories it'll start to feel more balanced. But as of right now, it's just a lot, and it's pretty, but it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Well, he says, and I don't know if it's the writer or the artist, but he said he's been working on it for like a very, very long time.
This has been a work in progress for like almost 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that can affect things too. Like, I don't think that this is the case as much as the books that I'm about to mention, but we have frequently started a first issue of a new fantasy world story, and it's like, feels like they have a whole world built out in their head, and they are presenting it to you in a way that is not conducive to the story.
Well, a book that did it really well was Last God. That Black Label book from last year. You and I both read like 6 issues in one clip. Philip Kennedy Johnson. The art was great. The story was constructed as present and past happening at the same time, and they moved back and forth, and then gave you back matter to fill in gaps. But even if you skipped the back matter, you just cared about the characters and their relation to 30 years ago and now. You did not need to know the other stuff. It's when you feel like you need to know the other stuff to care about what the characters are doing. That's when it just loses. That's when it just disconnects. You know, like I was enjoy enough. Yeah, I can enjoy Lord of the Rings without reading the Silmarillion and all of the appendices, right?
Well, the first 2 Lord of the Rings books are pretty dry too, but
they got some battles in there.
Yeah, they got some battles. But this one, I think by the end of it, the physical process of reading this book had tired me out enough that I'm like, I don't feel like reading this back matter, and so I didn't. And the interview, now I want to have read it, but
it's good. It's good if you ever decide to go back. I do think that this will be really fun. I would love to see this, and not even in hardcover. I would just love to see this in like the Treasury edition style soft covers, not unlike History of the Marvel Universe by Mark Waid and Javier Rodriguez, where it's a soft cover that you can like flat open and it's larger. I think that would be wonderful. Like no gutter loss.
Well, this would be prettier than the History of the Marvel Universe. I'll say that. But
it would be more intricate, but pretty is subjective.
Not in this case. But what I would also say is that I think what you have here also is the classic difference between an artist with great ideas, but he's not as good a writer as he is an artist. And because this is J.H. Williams' baby, and his W.H. Waiting for it to come up. W. Haddon Blackman is usually like his artistic partner. They have joined together on writing, but they're both artists first. So I don't think, I think that's where
I think Blackman's a game developer also. Like they are not writers by trade.
They're visual artists, who definitely have ideas and story ideas, and I'm not knocking it, and they've done good work. They did great work on Batwoman, but as good as Batwoman was, you felt the difference of J.H. Williams writing that book where he left, after Greg Rucka, a real writer or a person who's a writer first, was writing it. And I think that is what is the failing here of this comic. It's a beautiful comic. Just like Noel said, I would love to collect it, but I got a funny feeling this is a book that I would love to collect, and it probably would sit on my shelf for a while before I read it. I'll look at it every once in a while, and I'll knowing that this pretty thing is up on my shelf, dog. And every once in a while, I'll look at the cover, but it'll be a minute before I read it.
That's fair. So we've only got a couple books left, but before we get in there, let's quickly plug the plugs. If you like what we do here and or any of our other channels and stations, please, if you can, donate. Patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo. If you don't have a couple extra nickels to rub together to donate, you could always just go to all of our socials to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, leave a review, say hello, whatever you got to do. YouTube.com/CultPopGo or Facebook.com/CultPopPodcasts, where we hang out and talk back at you. Because, what else we got going on? Yeah, whatever. So the next book I want to talk about is, did anyone else finish Spider-Man Life Story?
I read it.
Neither started nor finished, but
I read it.
Yeah. The general conceit is easy. It's if Spider-Man Peter Parker aged in real time from the 60s on. Each issue is a decade. So it was the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and he aged in real time. So by the end of the book, he was 80-something-year-old Spider-Man, which was, I thought it was a great story. I think overall, like the worst air quotes part of it for me was I don't always love Mark Bagley's art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it's transgressive and the action's fantastic, and sometimes it's just like, hey, everyone's got 70s hair, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost like a very Alan Davis problem. But there was a little bit of a surprise annual. So it was a self-contained story, but then they came out with this annual, which had a solicitation that I'm going to bring up and I'll actually read to you guys if you want. Whatever.
Okay.
Spider-Man Life Story, annual number 1, written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Mark Bagley. So the original team. Spider-Man, he's a threat. He's a menace. And J. Jonah Jameson will do whatever it takes to make the world see it. But in this companion piece to last year's hit miniseries, Spider-Man Life Story, will the decades of obsession bear fruit for Jonah or be his destruction? Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley reunite for this story told in a world where Marvel's beloved characters aged in real time. So this is just a standalone story of where Jonah Jameson was for the majority of the original miniseries. And spoiler, prison, because he did some fucked up shit and he got caught. And I thought that was just an amazing, awesome turn in the first 5 pages of this issue. And then it's just him in prison for 30 years.
Is that not revealed in the original series?
I think it is, but it's offhanded, or I don't remember it at all, to be honest with you. Like, it wasn't important. He just kind of disappears in the third issue or something like that. Like, he's off the board and they deal with the other stuff. And the way that book is structured too, it's every decade has a bit of a big story arc. So like the 80s was a rehash of the Clone Saga. And the 90s was a rehash. So like a lot of those, they just omitted what J. Jonah Jameson was doing. Right. But here we now know that he was in prison the whole time because he had hired Scorpion.
He
created Scorpion. And then the Spider Slayer bots. And then Scorpion on his deathbed, or when he had life in prison, started singing like a canary. And Captain Stacy arrests J. Jonah. I thought this was awesome. I just really enjoyed this. This was like a really great construction of an annual too. A story that matters but doesn't matter for the ongoing or for what you're doing. I thought this was really fun. Well, what did you guys think, Glenn?
It's funny. I now that you remind me, I knew about the Spider-Man Life Story miniseries, but I honestly had forgotten all about it when I read this. So reading this, and then I quickly caught on to the conceit about this was going to be about J. Jonah Jameson, but because it starts in like around 62, like when Spider-Man actually began, and J. Jonah Jameson's really starts clicking around 65, 66 in this book, as they point out the year. And because of 2 books that we have read recently, this almost felt to me like Marvel trying to do a la Batman 89, Superman 78, trying to do Spider-Man 66 based on the cartoon show, right? Which makes sense to me because, one, that cartoon, anyone who watches it, especially in the first couple of seasons, definitely brings to life some of the more famous Spider-Man stories of that time, including the J. Jonah Jameson leading to creating the Scorpion, including J. Jonah Jameson and the Spider Slayer. So having all of that referenced here in this, and then paying it forward exactly what would happen, it almost read to me like if that was really Spider-Man, what would happen next?
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. I thought it was actually cool that they would take, in my mind, this cartoon series and then act like the third season of the series never happened because it
real fucking dark.
Because it really got fucking
real
really weird in the third season. Oh, it got no, we don't like to admit about that, man.
Was that like abduction of Mary Jane and different universes?
No.
Which one are we talking about?
The original, the 60s Spider-Man series never had Gwen Stacy or Mary Jane, but it just went left because Spider-Man was all of a sudden fighting aliens and going to different dimensions and swinging in space like he was whipping a web onto a star. like it made absolutely no sense. So we don't talk about that. But so this acts as if that never happened, and just like, what would have happened if J. Jonah Jameson actually had to pay for the shit that he did, especially when it references how Spider-Man saved his son, and he saved his son in the cartoon, but he never, I was like, this is awesome. I dug it. The only thing that took me out of it was that I really don't like Mark Bagley. I don't like his art. I think he is not bad, but he has progressively gotten worse. Like, he used to be not bad, and now he's gotten progressively worse. Like, there are scenes in here, like, people, like, they literally, like JD always points it out, they've got like this huge fish eye on one side of their face, like blinking like this at you, man. Like, it really just took me out. But outside of that, the whole story of it, the switch that comes at the end of this, which I actually thought was kind of I didn't see that coming, honestly, and I appreciated it. I actually even appreciated that Norman Osborn's place in this story as well. I really liked it.
The other side of that scene is one that I do remember from the original miniseries when Norman is released and
I figured as much.
Meets up with Parker. But are any of you guys reading, I think I know the answer to this anyway, the Fantastic Four life story miniseries?
No, I've been getting all of them, but it is also great and takes a couple of like hard turns in the third issue. Is it Chip Zdarsky also?
No, it's Mark Russell, but it's not. Okay. It's like Mark Russell not doing comedy, and it's great. Like, there are things that he points out being very quintessential Fantastic Four, but I never would have considered it that way. You know, like
I got
how
a
he
funny
treats
feeling
Johnny
he goes,
Storm, how he treats. Yeah,
I got a funny feeling he goes dark with the Fantastic Four, and I don't want to do that.
Well, he does.
Is it dark?
Well, I mean, so like,
no, he's not. But he said he's not doing comedy with it.
It's not funny. It's not funny book, but it does speak to, like, you know. I mean, I'll spoil the second issue. Like, Reed gets so obsessed with this vision of Galactus that he had that Sue leaves him, and she shacks up with Namor, and they're together for like a decade.
For a decade,
like because that's what would happen.
Because
like,
that dick.
Would it? Is that what would happen?
I mean,
yes, that is what would happen. Yes,
but then you know, you take care, you split characters apart in order to like tell a different story of them coming together. So but it does things with the characters that are really fun, and especially with Johnny and Ben. It's a great book. You guys should read it. And like Glenn, you're a big fan of Fantastic Four.
I'm a huge Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
me too.
Who's the art by?
Somebody I don't recognize.
Is it good?
The covers look good.
Is it good art?
It is. Yeah, it's good. It's better than Mark Bagley.
But he doesn't like Mark Bagley.
I know, that's why I'm saying like it's a net positive. So I mean, I can't remember the name of the artist. I could probably look it up because we are all in front of computers.
I'll look it up.
But it is not anything like I can't remember it distracting me, and I also can't remember it awing me.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? The covers are dope, though. The covers are very retro and cool.
Yeah, I've seen the covers, and the covers are dope. But
The covers
it's a really good book so far. Like I just love the life story conceit. This idea of taking their classic characters and aging them in real time.
Like Generations. Like Superman, Batman Generations. When that came out, I was like, what a cool thing to do.
Except if they didn't do the second series.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say Generations too.
I mean, it's all collected together.
Although there were parts of Generation, I mean, like I liked it when it came out, but like there were aspects of it that I'm like, oh, that was pretty sweet. But anyway, the Spider-Man life story. Oh, what's that?
Yeah, I was just going to give the artist name, Sean Azazi.
Oh yeah, Azazi. Right?
Azazi is Izaakse.
Isaac. Yes, it's great. It's fine. He did a bunch of tie-ins for some Venom stuff and for I'm looking at a page. I'm looking at a page. Also,
it looks serviceable.
Also, heads off to Chip Zdarsky for doing all kinds of weird stuff too. Like Life Story was great. The What If Spider Shadow was awesome. I don't know if you guys ever finished that. His Daredevil is great. Like I used to only consider him the funny guy, and
did he
he's
do
killing
funny
it.
stuff?
Sex Criminals, Howard the Duck, like Archie, Jughead. Like
I didn't know Sex Criminals.
Yeah,
like
him and Matt Fraction. Yeah, but he made his bones as the funny guy.
Oh, interesting.
He's just killing it across the board. It's nice to see.
I really enjoyed this. I felt this is not a point against the book because it's an annual to a story that already came out, but I felt like there were things that I was missing, from the story, but it made me want to read that other story. I was like, this is really cool. I do like Mark Bagley, so I was into it. And I like that kind of story too, where it's like, let's see these people's whole lives as it would have been if it started when the book actually started.
You should pre-order the Spider-Man life story oversized hardcover, which comes out later this year, and it'll include this, like the whole series in this. Yeah.
I'd really like to read this.
This will be collected with it because the trade doesn't have this.
You don't need the oversized.
I can just get the trade. I think
get the trade. It's a great story.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just saying. You're right. It's just Mark Bagley art. You don't need the oversized. What? Anyway, we got. I think we're all in agreement that this book was fun as hell.
It was awesome. It had a really cool, just like a feel and a flow to it. I really liked it.
The last book we're going to talk about today is just like a dark horse from the rafters. We've never talked about Transformers before. And a new series started, Transformers Shattered Glass, #1. The only reason why I thought this would be a potentially fun idea is one, because we never talked about Transformers before, at least that I've been around for. And it is supposed to be an alternate whatever that current continuity doesn't matter, so it's a jumping on point. So let's give it a shot. #1 by IDW, written by Danny Lore with art by Guido Guidi. Maybe a pen name, maybe just a really dope name. We don't know, but it's Guido Guidi. The solicitation, the very verbose solicitation is as follows. Blur. And
That's
scene. That's
Whoa.
it. It's a one-word solicitation.
I figured it was going to be short the way you set it up, but that was short.
It's literally one word.
Yeah.
So overall, I liked this. I don't know if I want to keep reading it, but I thought that this was a good one-shot, right? So it sets up an ordinary world of thousands. It's essentially just thousands of years after the Autobots win, right? However, Autobots have become warlords in their own cities and factions. So I'm assuming Goldbug is what's his name? The Beetle.
Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Bumblebee. I'm assuming Goldbug is Bumblebee.
But this
Pax
all
is
like
Optimus Prime. I don't know who the other one is,
Yeah.
but they're these dome cities, almost like Judge Dredd style mega cities that these warlord Autobots control. And you've got bounty hunters and body scrapers that are just tracking down those that don't fall in line and or break the law. We follow Blur. He gets a bounty for Starscream, who is one of the last remaining Decepticons. Shit goes awry. He plays it too soft and loose, and Starscream gets the best of him. It's a very simple story with some cool added on details if you are a fan of lore. Overall, I liked it, but it's just, I don't know. I like, if I was really steeped into the lore, then I'd probably get a lot of like the side stuff more and I'd be hooked. But this was just fine. I was just okay with this. The art is great. The pacing is great. The panel layout is actually really fun. The way that they handle Blur is really cool. His motion. Yeah, and I did like the end. I liked the twist ending, if you even want to call it a twist. I liked the way
reveal.
The reveal, the way the story transpired.
Yeah.
I could see myself giving issue 2 a chance to see where it goes, because this wasn't just like a stop off point for me, but it still didn't grab me. So I'm thinking like B-, C+.
Yeah.
What did you guys think? Did you get a chance to read this?
Yeah, I agree. Like I could see myself reading another issue. I liked it. I thought it was good. I found myself reading through it, and I thought it was an interesting story. And it's classic, even like 80s cartoon to do this like dark possible future kind of thing, like where everything goes horribly wrong. But I found myself thinking like, well, why? Like, why are things different than like, why is Optimus Prime sitting like that in that, like telegraphs like I am a warlord on a throne seat, and like, why is Blur like, oh, I guess he never cared about being an Autobot, and it's the kind of like dark twist that I usually don't like. That didn't bother me in this case. I thought it was an interesting story, but I did find myself thinking like, what's the foundation for it being any different than you're expecting the Autobots to be?
There is no foundation. That's true.
Yeah, like they're very different than you. It's not just like, oh, they've taken a dark turn. They're like
the only explanation that's even attempted to give as of right now is just that it's been thousands and thousands of years.
Right.
That's it. So evolved past whatever when there's no struggle.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well,
Ben?
I did read this comic book, and I didn't think we would ever get here on the show. So because I didn't think we would ever read a Transformers book, but we're reading one, so here we are. I don't give a fuck about the Transformers.
You don't get the Transformers, man.
Like the days of me giving a fuck about the Transformer are long ago, right?
Okay, so you did though. Like you were.
No, I did at one time.
Yeah,
but even then, I wasn't like hardcore. Like, oh my gosh, Transformers!
I was in it.
I mean, they shot as good as G.I. Joe, which means they never hit anybody. So, like, I didn't really give a fuck. Like, I didn't give a fuck until the first animated movie. That's the one that everybody really gives a fuck about.
That's true.
And as much as everybody capes up for the series and for the comics, and as much as everybody capes up for the fucking movies, there's a reason why you go back to the animated movie, because it's the only one that had real fucking stakes, because Optimus Prime fucking died in the first 10 minutes of the fucking movie.
Ooh.
So
wait, was it that quickly? I don't remember that.
It's the first action scene.
Really?
Yeah, he dies at the beginning of the fucking movie.
Yeah. So after that, I don't give a fuck about the Transformers. Everything else, I don't care if they turn into cars, trucks,
Beast Wars,
planes. gorillas,
dinosaurs,
dinosaurs. I don't give a fuck because all it is just
Household
a
products,
countdown until you get
food.
to the Optimus Prime analog and the Megatron analog and them going up against each other. So I don't give a fuck. And maybe it is that I have aged out of it. All right. But I aged out of it a long time ago. So reading this, especially considering that this is like, as much as this is 1,000 years later in the world of the Transformers, but it reads and looks like the animated series, which I grew out of. So I did not give a good goddamn about this. I am all for revisiting properties of that time and changing it and doing something funky with it that makes sense. And it is that pays homage to what was before, but gives it a slightly different beat, changes some things for a 21st century audience. Case in point, on Netflix, Voltron. Watch every season of Voltron. It is every bit what the original series was, and it's 10,000 times better, and it's great. And yes, this is not animated. I understand it's not the same venues and media.
If you read it real fast, it's animated.
I was just gonna say also the new Masters of the Universe that also takes what you knew and
it does add to it. It does
recreates over and over again.
Case in point, also I see your Masters of the Universe, and that's a good one. I also see She-Ra, which totally changes.
That's just completely reinvented
and does something great with it.
Can I tell you?
What? Tell me what?
Well, I was gonna say my hope for this that it didn't execute, which is what you're on, was that this was going to be hopefully revelatory like the most recent G.I. Joe comics were. Like the IDW G.I. Joe comics, they took, as far as I'm concerned, very boring cartoons and actually infused them with real military stuff, full espionage, adult situations, and by that I mean mature, not
right.
bumping uglies. I remember
that episode.
Vital, stressful, anxious-ridden action comics, and they were fantastic. And I was hoping for something like that. You know, you get Larry Hama and Chuck Dixon to tell you a real military story. It's just through the prism of action figures. Could have been done here, and it just wasn't. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Yeah,
it wasn't. And I don't care. I have seemingly, maybe, I don't know if I ever had it. I've lost the ability to discern most of the Transformers from one another, so I really didn't give a fuck. I appreciate Starscream. I know he's an asshole. It's nice to see he's still an asshole. He's got a hole in his wing. Other than that, it's the same goddamn
hole in his wing and a hole in his ass.
You know what though? He's consistent. Thousands of years later, same asshole.
Same asshole.
They also, on the cartoon, they would have different voice actors, whereas here, there's all just writing, so it must be harder to tell. Yeah.
I didn't like this. I was not for. It's not for me.
I disagree with you. I'm like I said, like if it's a light week, might read issue 2, but this is something that if I never see it again, I will forget to go back and read it.
You know what, guys? I didn't even notice that there was a backup story until we were looking at it now. Did you know that? Yeah.
No.
It's after several things. Yeah.
I skipped all the way past it, but I did see it, but I didn't.
I didn't know.
Nah, we're good.
Yeah. Or it might be like a tease for a different. Oh, it's a 4-page preview of Transformers King Grimlock.
I will say that there was a couple years ago, probably 10 years ago at this point, there was a good Transformers comic, one, and that was All Hail Megatron. That was cool. That was like a 12 to 13 issue fascist Megatron wins regime story, and it was cool. So I got
maxi series. Get the fuck out of here.
This is Transformers maxi series. What do you want? An ongoing? You want more?
More than meets the eye.
More than that?
Don't worry.
I am a fan of stories with endings, and it had an ending.
Yeah, the Transformers ended with the first animated movie.
I know that Len's got a hard stop. We should probably just say our goodbyes. I think that's the last of the comics.
Again, since we had talking about What If, guys, I just want to say I really enjoyed this last episode, and I think it might be the one that I hope gets a continuation the most.
That's interesting because
yeah.
I found myself, this one is the one where I wanted to like it, but this is the one where the animation really took me out of it.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
I thought it was cool seeing the Watcher in the background, and I was trying to think, did we see the Watcher in the background? Okay,
no.
okay.
I think I middle of the road. Actually, I think it was technically. I think it was the weakest episode, but it was also the most deep in the weeds MCU episode.
Yeah.
True.
It was probably the least inventive.
I liked it and didn't. Yeah, but and I called the twist ending or the killer like less than halfway through the episode.
Did you really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
I was thinking it might have been
I really appreciated like the character design at the
end
the
yellow jacket
of the bad guy. It's fine.
Yeah. Watch, you should have already seen it.
It was like if that's the worst that it's gonna get, I think we're gonna be great.
Yeah. But yeah, now that we're talking about, like it was the least inventive of them. Not much happened after the different things that happened. And possibly that's one of the reasons that I'm more interested in seeing the continuation. Like, I want to see what happens from this setup. Yeah, who knows? I know they're going to continue some of them.
Also, Lake Bell does an amazing Scarlett Johansson impression.
Oh,
because she was the voice actor for.
Yeah, but I would have liked her to just do her own voice.
Oh, Lake Bell's?
Yeah.
Who might know mostly from like comedy stuff.
Yeah.
Right,
JD says we did see the Watcher in the background of other episodes.
Well, I didn't, but
we'll have to go back and check it out.
I won't.
But so
firmly committed to only watching them once.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time and your candor. Well, we talked about things that don't matter to anyone else but us. I've been Noel. You can got me on social media at Mr. Bartocci or the CultPop podcast live streams and all that stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, say hello whenever you can. Brian, where can people find you?
I'm at brianleibdesign.com and around the town.
Len?
Cool.
Hey, holla at me on all the social media at the Bat Triple or Bat Triple on Twitter or Instagram. Holla, 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 holla.
And be sure, if you're in the area, to visit Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located on 4327 Main Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Guys, I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful night.
Good. You too.
Bye.